A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Fiona Mbabazi. Happy New Year to you,
Happy New Year, Fiona.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Go straight to the stories. Now, with COVID-19 infection rates and fatalities on the rise in Rwanda, fears have been growing that the pandemic will kill many more people if the general public's implementation of preventive measures do not improve.
Existing measures include a 50% sitting capacity limit on all public transport buses, the suspension of all wedding ceremonies and other festivities, as well as the enforcement of a countrywide curfew from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., except in Musanze district of the northern province where the curfew begins at 7. Despite this, COVID-19 appears to have accelerated its rampage and people are worried. We are very afraid these days because we heard that it is a serious illness that affects a person's breathing, which is why we must protect ourselves by wearing a mask and practicing social distancing. Things have gotten much worse of late, and we hear of many new infections daily, and the fatalities have also drastically increased. We are worried that a person may use illegal ways to get around and end up among us, infecting us. That worries us a lot. The last 20 days have been particularly bad for Rwanda when it comes to COVID-19, with infection rates and deaths because of the pandemic seeing highs previously unknown in the 9 months the scourge has been in the country. With 65,268 tests carried out, 1,844 infections were found and 44 people ended up dying from the virus, and active cases rocketed from 739 to 1,823. That means fresh infections increased from 3.3 to 3.7% in the span of just 3 weeks, and fatalities increased from 0.8 to 1.2%. Health experts point out that there is a reason for this. The measures that were initially implemented were so successful, people became complacent, thinking that we were all somehow immune to the pandemic, and so infection rates began to spike. If people continue on this path and fail to realize that we must all play our part in properly implementing these measures, the pandemic will eventually overrun us. You have seen how in the last 2 days alone, it has seemed that things are getting out of hand, with 6 or even 7 people dying in the space of 24 hours. We saw nothing like that at the start of the pandemic. We went for more than 3 months without a single fatality. There is also a problem of people contracting the disease and then mistaking it for regular flu. People are mistaking COVID for regular flu, especially now in the rainy season. However, flu symptoms are the first sign of COVID, and so I urge anyone with symptoms to think of COVID before they start thinking that they have a regular cold. People are going to pharmacies and buying regular cough medicine to deal with the symptoms, when in reality all they are doing is going around spreading the virus, and by the time they are finally properly diagnosed, they have infected many people, and that is what is worrying us most. And this is why health officials in Rwanda have continued to insist that as long as a vaccine is not available in the country, preventive measures must continue to be respected. COVID is still with us, and even though vaccines are available and have begun to be used in some other places around the world, we do not expect to get one tomorrow. That means we still have an extended period ahead of us in which we must continue protecting ourselves and fighting the spread of the virus. Only such measures can enable people to continue with their regular daily activities and developmental efforts. But if they fail to respect the preventive measures, then certainly some things will be affected, because more infections mean more restrictions that could have been avoided. Since March last year, when the first COVID-19 case was detected within Rwanda's borders, more than 8,600 people have been infected, with more than 6,700 recoveries and more than 100 fatalities.
Rwandan manufacturers and exporters believe that for Rwanda to benefit from the African Continental Free Trade Area, there has to be collective effort to ensure mass production and the reduction in the cost of production. Ethan Tashobia reports.
March 21st, 2018 will forever remain a remarkable moment in the history of Africa. This day, close to 50 African Union member states signed the African Continental Free Trade Area, the Kigali Declaration and the Free Movement Protocol by order of interest during the 10th Extraordinary Summit of the AU Assembly of Heads of State and Government held in Kigali. Particularly, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement was signed seeking to remove non-tariff barriers for the African goods on the continent and facilitate intra-African trade. President Paul Kagame, who was also the chairperson of the African Union at that time, said in his speech at the signing ceremony that the treaty would enhance investment and prosperity for the continent with the view of prioritizing the production of value-added goods and services. He challenged African leaders and private sector to take ownership of the deal for the greater benefit of the continent.
The creation of one African market necessarily entails a metamorphosis in how we think and act. The full involvement of the private sector is needed more than ever before.
36 African countries have ratified the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, surpassing the necessary 22 deposits of ratification. The flagship project of the African Union Agenda 2063 is expected to make Africa the world's largest trade bloc with a market of about 1.3 billion consumers and a combined GDP of $3 trillion. According to statistics, trade between African countries is at 16%, while trade among European Union countries is at 60%. Trade between Africa and Asia is at 50%. Africa's exports are worth $84 billion, despite Africa exporting non-finished commodities. Economic experts believe that with value-added production and collaboration between African countries will benefit Africa and Rwandan producers.
This will benefit the country because the market will now be bigger and the continent will also benefit in trade and technology advancement, which is important. The dignity and bargaining power of the continent will improve.
Once the trading under AFCFTA begins in earnest, it is expected to facilitate seamless trade of about 90% commodities produced on the African continent, which will enhance investment and job creation. Rwanda's Private Sector Federation says they are ready to tap into this historic Continental Trade Area Agreement for the benefit of the Rwandan businesses, but they believe collective effort will lead to increased opportunities for the Rwandan producers.
If my investment is worth $1 billion and the market demand increases, requiring me to increase my investment, this will require cooperation between Rwandan businesses. The cost of production in Rwanda is really high. Once we fully understand the deal and there is government input in access to raw material, will reduce the cost of production and make made in Rwanda products competitive.
The chairperson of the Rwanda Private Sector Federation, Robert Bafakurera, believes that Rwanda's businesses will have a competitive advantage given that the country has a national carrier that flies to different countries across the continent.
What is required is information sharing between countries that have already ratified the agreement. Our national carrier flies to different destinations across all corners of the continent. Now there is need for cargo planes to start flying to as many countries to transport our goods and provide enough space for goods.
The Africa Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, is expected to improve the country's trade balance by reducing imports and increasing exports. In 2019-2020 fiscal year, Rwanda's exports increased to 44.9% from 46.7% in 2018-2019 fiscal year. while the value of exports increased by 15%, while trade deficit during the same period was at 23.7%, worth $1.589 billion. Meanwhile, Rwandan businesses are calling for more sensitization to fully understand the legal instruments of the AfCFTA and the benefits of trading under this continental free trade area. Reporting for RwandaTV News, Ethan Tashobia.
Well, thank you, Ethan, for that story. Now, electoral officials in the Central African Republic have announced that President Faustin Archange Touadera has won the elections in that country with 53.92% of the votes. Now, his closest rival got 21%. Now, standing by, of course, in Bangui is RBA Jean-Pierre Kagabo, and we'll begin, of course, by wanting to know what the atmosphere there following the announcement of the electoral officials. Good evening, Kagabo, and hope that you're doing well.
Good evening, Fiona and Sam. How are you?
Good, thank you. What's the atmosphere following the announcement of the results, the electoral results?
Yeah, right after the announcement, the president of the party for the incumbent president has said that they are happy of the results. So even in Bangui, we did a tour in Bangui, capital city, whereby we met people excited, those who are supporting the incumbent president. They are happy, dancing, shouting, but for the opposition, of course, they say this election would have not happened. So, in general, Bangui is calm and people are doing their business as usual.
Right. And now, Kagabo, that the results have been released, what are the next hopes and steps for the people of the Central African Republic?
Yeah, we talked to people in Bangui and in different areas of this country. People are thirsty of peace. They want peace to prevail. So for the president that has been re-elected, they say, yes, we have been struggling to get peace. We want peace because we can't have development which is durable when you don't have peace. So as a priority, they want the president to prioritize peace, and this is a recommendation by ECAS, which is a regional integration organization that has suggested that after this election, which was actually blessed by this ECAS, they want Central African people to meet and have a dialogue so that this country should go forward for development.
Absolutely. But what are the challenges that the president can consider right now moving forward, considering that there's still, fights in small parts of the country and other people, and bringing people to be united once more? What are the challenges that lie ahead for the president?
Yeah, you are right. This is a challenge actually for big countries like this. Central Africa is a very big country whereby actually two out of third of this country, according to some reports, are occupied by rebels, but this needs to be verified. So Central Africa has opted for peace and has requested support from friend countries, whereby they hope to strengthen security and also fighting rebels. So as by strategies set by UN mission, which is here, and the friend countries for Central Africa. So they have tried to make sure Bangui, which is the biggest city, is secured and surroundings, and to set a plan also, which is a durable plan for security of this country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Kagabo, for making time to be with us, and of course, please keep safe and see you when you get back.
Thank you for having me, Fiona and Sam.
Thank you. Back to you, Sam.
Right from that, those who were relocated from the Bihinga model village are happy with the life they now lead. This model village was built at a whopping cost of 1 billion Rwandan francs. In gender sector, this is where the model village was built, and 62 families were relocated in 2017. 40 new families were relocated in 2020. Among other infrastructures found in the village includes a modern market and cowsheds. Nyabihu leadership says this move will continue to be implemented, especially for those who live in high-risk zones.
Now, local residents in Nyabidasi sector, Rutsiro district, received electricity for the very first time during the end of 2020. They say this is a game changer as it shall be used in various resourceful ways. Now, the sector administration says this is an opportunity for many investors to add more value to agricultural products that are produced in this area. Jane Mutoni with the details.
Awalda Bikorimana Jean Maurice, a resident in Nyabirasi sector in Rutsiro district, says this job has sustained and improved the well-being of his family. He says it is now possible to do his job due to the availability of electricity for the first time in his area. He was able to start this business, as before locals had to travel for 6 hours to acquire those services. It's been simplified now. For example, if a person needs a doormat, they can have one on time without having to travel all the way to get one. On my part, I also make sure that I keep my promise so as to avoid disappointing my customers. On one hand, he and his fellow welders say that getting electricity has been life-changing, as it has led to starting various businesses, which include establishing maize and sorghum grinding stations and barbershops. As you can see, I'm from getting a haircut before I had to travel to Mahoko. Residents of Nyabirasi sector explain why being connected to electricity is a great milestone. We would like to thank our President Paul Kagame for giving us electricity, because before we were living in the dark, he has made all this possible for us. The Executive Secretary of Nyabirasi sector, Niodusenga Jules, says this is a great opportunity for investors to invest in agriculture and construction sectors in order to improve the area's production. This sector is rich in forests. Trees could be put to use in producing different materials. There are many opportunities at disposal, including cow rearing in this area, with a high production of milk. After 9 months of receiving electricity, the sector administration says that out of 6,795 residents that were supposed to receive electricity, only 400 have received it, while installation have just been completed in 1,115 homes. Jane Mutoni reporting for RTV.
Thank you, Jen, for that report. Gisagara local residents are complaining that a local bridge that helped them with trade and regular transport fell and has not yet been repaired. And however, the residents have therefore asked for its reconstruction. Ghislaine Mugwaneza reports.
In Gisagara district, there is a bridge that is located at a place known as Nyagashikazi, which is 1 kilometer from Mijina River. This bridge was built on Rumira River at Gisagara Nyaruguru Road that passes by Nyanza and Goma sectors. Due to its damage, no vehicle or pedestrians can cross it. The residents that live in Nyaruguru and Gisagara say that the breaking of this bridge has led to the limitations in their businesses.
It's not easy to reach the road when you want to. We all work while using this road. You need to remove the passenger on the bicycle or motorcycle to pass under the bridge and then take the passenger again.
The residents have asked the officials in charge to rebuild this bridge, for it helps them a lot when it comes to doing business.
If it gets rebuilt, it will bring back the visits between Gisagara and Nyaruguru, and the number of buyers that come in Nyaruteja market will increase, and we shall benefit from this.
The Gisagara district vice mayor in charge of finance and economic development, Shampur Habineza, has said that they already know this problem and they are finding a way to sort it out.
Our harvest reaches the market because of trade that is based on roads, transport and bridges. That is why we think that even that bridge will be built maybe in partnership with Nyaruguru district, especially RTDA and the Ministry of Infrastructure, so that those roads can keep on being used and trade as well.
According to the Gisagara district officials, there are 8 bridges that got destroyed by disasters that should be rebuilt.
On behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen, thank you very much for being with us. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Fiona Mbabazi. And do remember that COVID-19 is still here with us. You have an important role to play.
Please wash your hands regularly with clean water and soap.
Maintain the social distance.
And please wear your face mask correctly. And yes, together we can curb down the spread of COVID-19.
Have yourselves a very good evening and a good night.